I was having a conversation earlier today. 155, right? We, as fight fans, we can't quit talking about 155. But this was the word said to me. You cannot convince me because it makes no level of sense to put Dustin Poirier and Nate Diaz in for the 155-pound title. Now, let me stop you right there, because that entire statement makes perfect sense except for the last four words. If I was to just tell you Dustin Poirier versus Nate Diaz, do you want to see that? Yes. Does that fight make sense? Yes. Is that a main event fight? Yes. Do you love it? Yes. Would you anticipate it? Yes. Is it a really big deal? Yeah. It's for the title that seems to have people upset. Diaz is going to have the same issue fighting for the title. His first time down to 155 and his last fight being a TKO loss. He's going to have the same problem that Conor McGregor has. If Conor McGregor ends up with Poirier, and it's going to be one of those two, it's going to be for a title, which means Conor's walking into a fight after getting knocked out. And it's a title fight. And by the way, listen to my whole piece. I don't want to hear in the comment section that Chael got off course here. What I'm going to say right now, I am just talking. I am purely talking. I am not saying this should happen. For a talking point, though, if you want to tell me that Conor versus Dustin is going to happen in July and it's going to be for the belt, I'm going to ask you why Conor versus Dustin wasn't just for the belt. And if you come back and tell me, well, it should have been, I'm going to go, well, obviously it should have been. If we're going to redo it and this time we're going to fix that, why don't we just give the belt to Dustin? At which point you're going to say, Chael, that's ridiculous. At which point I'm going to remind you that Jose Aldo had never fought in the UFC and was the UFC champion. Ronda Rousey had never set foot in the octagon, including for a signing, for a warm-up, for a workout session, or for a photo shoot, and was the UFC champion. Now imagine how history would look if illness or injury got in the way of either of them ever fighting. The history books would reflect them both as champions who had never set foot in the octagon. I mean, could you imagine? Do you see where it gets a little bit weird? We've done weird stuff. And I'm not suggesting that there's going to be no push. I don't want to hear that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm making conversation. But it's a little bit of a tough spin, okay? And before you guys, what are you talking about? They can put a bow on anything. Yeah, I agree. I agree that they can. I agree there has been incredible luck within this industry to market, package, and present something. I fully agree with you. But it doesn't mean that you don't worry about it ahead of time. Okay, those things don't just happen for Dana. Dana plans for those things. I mean, this is happening in front of your eyes right now, whether you know it or not. Logan Paul was scheduled to fight Floyd Mayweather in mid-February of this year, as in 2 weeks from now. That fight is off. And that fight is off for a lack of interest. They could not sell that. Nobody was buying it. SportsCenter was not calling up and going, we got to get Mayweather in here. Team Logan Paul is calling the sports shows, and they're going, we're going to pass. Very interested in him boxing somebody of his amateur level, but with Floyd, good luck. They had to cancel the fight, right? The biggest celebrity draw that there's ever been in the Sweet Science against the biggest draw that there has ever been in the Sweet Science. You put them together, it just didn't work. It was nothing those guys did wrong. Those guys sat down, they did the math, it all looked like it was going to make sense, and the sports show said, we're not interested. There's no way for us to package this. We don't want to hear how you're training, Floyd. We don't even want to hear that you are training. And Logan, whatever it is you're doing, it really doesn't make a damn bit of difference. You don't know how to box. It's just one of those things. There was the fight's off. They're not going to do the fight. So when I tell you that there has to be a sellable approach to the fight, I'm not coming in out of left field. I'm fully aware of the powers, but they sit down and they plan for it. They sit down and they plan, how are we going to package this and tell it? I'm only offering for you that, yes, Dustin Poirier's next fight should be for a world title. If you're telling me that you can't put Diaz and Poirier together because of world titles, that's the only thing that bothers you? I take the world title away. I disarm an opportunity that Dustin has earned and should have had over the weekend, okay? And you tell me that fight makes perfect sense. You'll mark it on your calendar. You'll throw a party, have all your buddies over. Somebody bring the root beer. I'll supply the pizzas. I tell you there's a title up and all of a sudden you're disgusted. I mean, do you see the problem with this? it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Do you want to see Diaz fight Poirier? Start with that. If I come on the back and tell you the cherry on the sundae, I don't expect you to return it to the waitress.